Hey everyone, today I wanted to briefly tell you about a new little shark species that was recently discovered in the Gulf of Mexico. This new species, Clarkea, was placed in the Squalus genus of dogfish. The study that describes the Squalus Clarkea was published in the journal Zootaxia. Now, I want to read you some parts of their abstract, as it's all really fascinating stuff. To begin, the authors say, quote, "Sharks of the genus Squalus have slow reproductive rates coupled with low genetic diversity, as is typical of deep water sharks, making this group slow to rebound from depletion due to overfishing. The number of species within Squalus has been expanding recently due to increased attention on taxonomic revision and a growing research focus on little-known deep water sharks in general. Here, we use genetics and morphology to describe a new species of dogfish shark, Squalus clarkea, from the Gulf of Mexico, which replaces Squalus mitsukuri in this region, and place it in the context of congeners from the Atlantic and elsewhere." Unquote. The authors describe how they sequenced mitochondrial genes in 6 populations across 5 different species of dogfish shark, and they found that these new sharks are genetically distinct. They found that these new sharks expressed new morphological traits compared to other dogfish, including, quote, "a longer body, smaller interorbital space, shorter caudal fin, and a differently proportioned first dorsal fin." Unquote. This particular shark species was named after a famous shark scientist named Eugenie Clark, who died in 2015 at the age of 92. Clark founded the Mote Marine Laboratory in Sarasota, Florida. She discovered new species of fish, and she intensively studied shark behavior. She was one of the pioneers in the field, one of the first people who told the world that sharks are mostly gentle creatures, and not the brutal death machines that they're so often depicted as. A co-author of the study, named Toby Daly Engel, who's a biologist from the Florida Institute of Technology, talked about naming the shark after Eugenie Clark, and said, quote, "She is the mother of us all. She was not just the first female shark biologist, she was one of the first people to study sharks." Unquote. I always enjoy reporting on newly discovered species because it's like a perpetually recurring reminder of how life is dynamic and perpetually evolving and branching out and diverging. When we talk about the evolutionary history of life that exists in the now, we can draw huge branches between things, like between humans and the rest of the apes. Chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, orangutans, you get it. We can also draw huge lines between mammals and reptiles, and birds and fish and amphibians, and between even larger groups like eukaryotes and prokaryotes. But all of these big lines defining the evolutionary history of life, they make connections across millions of years, but they fail to illustrate the granular detail, which is the infinite hairiness of the branch as it exists in the perpetual now, or as life exists today. Every population in every lineage is undergoing an endless stream of change, in a perpetual succession of temporal blooming events, of divergence, radiation, and speciation. These blooms of biodiversity are always happening in real time all around us, but it takes evolutionary lengths of time before we see what dies and what survives. We can only draw these big lines between extant groups when we look back at hundreds of millions of years of evolutionary history.